So, hello everyone. Here we are back, this time with episode 4 of the Belay Mental Health Awareness series in climbing. Last episode we talked about low motivation and how it's actually not a bad thing to sometimes not be motivated. It's actually okay, it just can happen. And today we will talk about restlessness. And like always, I will start talking how I feel and experience restlessness. Sometimes I feel desperately this need to go climbing and to just do something related to climbing. I just need this, I really want to go climbing just because it's I like to be in the moment. It helps me focus, help me connect to my body. It's really nice to get out of your head and live the moment and really live the present moment. And it's mainly the physical activity that really connects you to this one moment. And climbing or pushing myself helps me to disconnect from all the noise in my head. And although this sounds really healthy, to go climbing, to be in nature, live the present moment, connect to your body, there is a little bit of an unhealthy side to it. And the problem is that when there is restlessness and this need to go climbing, and you don't feel the real intrinsic motivation to really climb and enjoy the moment and everything, but just because it became kind of a habit, to use it more to flee some kind of emotions that you don't like, or flee your head, just go away from it all, and then it kind of becomes like a bad habit somehow. I would only feel good when climbing. What do you think about that, Cameron?
I think it's a really important point because it happens to a lot of us, not everyone, but we start off climbing because we love it, right? We're in nature, it's an amazing sport. And for some of us, it can creep up where suddenly we feel the need we have to climb. I must climb. I need to climb. And there's almost an anxiety that comes with it, or a stressfulness about it, or it's different from that, that joy and that freedom that we had when we first got into it. And often we just keep going and thinking that we need to and we have to and we must climb without taking that time just to reflect and kind of go, hang on, is this still giving me everything that I want from it? And we continue to get that feeling, that itchy feet feeling, or I have to, and we start to obsess about when can I get back to the rock, and it starts to kind of take over our thoughts, and we can get on to a little bit as to why that might happen later. But first of all, I was just interested to hear from you as to when you sort of first noticed that restlessness and that need to climb had negative impacts on you.
So, well, that's a good question. I think, first of all, when I go climb and train, I'm moved by this restlessness instead of intrinsic motivation. It's hard to really connect to the present moment. Climbing doesn't go well, and I feel just the pressure all the time to just climb and finish and tick the box, to become stronger, to give my project a try, to really please my sponsors, to just do this trip because I need to do this trip. And this is driven by this restlessness and not by motivation. And second, I also noticed most of the time afterwards that I actually ran away from something, from another feeling, an emotion, that I needed my distraction, and that you do it over and over again from the same feeling or the same emotion. You're running away by always going climbing, by always planning, by being busy, by trying to escape something. And most of the time I don't really realize immediately what it was.
Yeah, it's what I found really interesting there is we often have more than one feeling going on at a time, but we get locked into one feeling, and in this case, I guess what we're talking about here is that restlessness. But we never have just one feeling, and I think it can really, really help to ask ourselves, well, what else am I feeling here? As you said, often that that obsession to, or that need to, is a very clear sign that we're masking over something, right? We're coming so busy over here because we don't want to deal with what's here. And it can often be an avoidance pattern or avoidant technique. And so to ask ourselves the question, well, what else am I feeling here? What else is going on here? Helps us to actually engage with the holistic side of what's actually happening within us. And in this manner, we can still then tap into some of that enjoyment that we've always had with climbing, and at the same time, the restlessness might be preoccupying our mind, but it doesn't have to take over. And before we get deeper into what else we can do, once we've sort of established that often it's a case that we're avoiding something that's going on, how do you now deal with those feelings of restlessness?
So I try to really ask myself if there's any intrinsic motivation first in me to go climb and train. If so, why not just go and climb? If there is any intrinsic motivation, even if it's a little bit, just go and climb. I mean, it's still a good thing. Sometimes you get out of your head and it's really helpful. But if it's really just to tick the box and to flee an emotion, I try to really take time for myself and not flee the uncomfortable emotion by go climbing and by distracting myself. I try to really sit with that moment. And a moment I really strongly remember was in Yosemite, and I know I talked a lot about the downwall in this episodes, but it's another thing that just came up. I think this whole experience might have lived really strongly in me, or moved me a lot. But after in 2023, the second trip in the downwall, there was a period of a long time that I worked all the pitches, and I really felt the need again and the restlessness to go and give the downwall a try. And I was in camp 4, and I was packing up my bags, and I was on my own because I had no belayer yet, but I was okay, I'll prepare the bags and I haul everything up so camp is set up. But I wasn't really feeling it. It was more out of restlessness and out of I need to do this because I've put so much effort in here. And so while prepping, I felt this nervousness. I was running around and not focused. I couldn't really focus on what I was doing. And at a certain moment, I got in the car with the haul bags. I drove towards El Cap Meadow, and I just started crying. Like I bursted out in tears, and I felt so lonely. I was filled with fear, and I just didn't want to be there anymore. I was I just want something else. But by sticking to the plan, I was kind of running away. I was fleeing my emotions, all the signals my body gave, actually all those days before, and definitely this moment I was prepping the bag and couldn't focus, and also my breathing got really heavily, and I started running around. I'm fuck, I forgot this bottle, and I ran back to the camp, and I was all pissed, and then I got in the car, and I think it was just being alone as well, and also protected, and I started driving, and on the first pull out, I had to pull out because I couldn't even see where I was driving anymore. I was crying so hard. And so now when I feel this resistance, even a little bit, I try to really say okay, Siebe, this is it again. Don't push through. This is some signal your body gives. Give yourself some space. And sometimes it's so hard to listen to that and to not ignore it and really take the space, because you have a plan, you want to go for it, you have something in your head, and mainly subconsciously you're really fleeing this pain or this emotion. So I think the biggest thing I would do now is don't ignore it. Don't ignore this feeling, and definitely take time and create some space.
Yeah, it's amazing how much friction or fear or avoidance or resistance we can have to our own feelings. And really often that restlessness, that kind of preoccupation or obsession or busyness is really friction to what we might be avoiding. And it's the kind of behavioral side and the need to engage in that behavior so we don't have to feel over here. And you just saying you just sit with it and feel it and allow it, and is really helpful to overcoming that habit. Because at the end of the day, all that restlessness is a behavioral pattern. It's a habit that we're doing. And just to spend 5 seconds to sit with that feeling, understand it, and allow those messages to be heard, the neurochemicals can disappear, and the body doesn't need to keep reminding us of what that message is, and so it can feel less significant, and we can move on. But taking that 5 seconds, taking that 1 minute, taking whatever it is, just to feel it and let it go, is often not in our repertoire. It's not in our habit. So I guess one of the first things to overcoming this restlessness is really to think of it as, I'm forming a habit with this restlessness. How can I create a new habit? At the core of it, I need to understand what else is going on with myself emotionally. And it's within that processing and giving ourselves space to do that we can then be agile, we can recalibrate, we can refocus, we can not get distracted by all the noise that's a consequence of that, that's ordinarily inhibiting our enjoyment and performance. So what can also help, as well as inserting that new habit every time we become aware of it, is to look back as to when we first created it, right? That habit of being restless and obsessing and we've got to do it, started at some stage, and it started often for a good reason. It served a purpose, it helped us, but now we may no longer need it. And when we can kind of understand when did it start, we can start to go, oh yeah, I did actually really enjoy climbing. It was awesome. And we can get back some of that intrinsic motivation you were talking about. So I'm curious if we just reflect on that for a second. Where do you think that restlessness started for you? Where do you think it comes from for you?
Yeah, I think, first of all, going climbing became some kind of like coping mechanism, also just planning a lot and being a lot on trips and to run away from some kind of feeling. And I think it's feelings of self-doubt, fear of failure, not being enough, and wanting some recognition, I think. And to come back to your question, like where does it really come from? So I was sent for my first time to the climbing gym by my parents when I was like 8 years old, and I quickly realized how good I was. And people noticed me and were like really encouraging me positively, and it was such a positive atmosphere, and it's something I didn't really feel in my family or from my parents, like or like the positive vibes of like, oh, you're good, you can be who you want, how you want to be, who you want to be. Like I kind of like always had the feeling I needed to like perform to be worth it, to be there, to be seen. And of course, in the climbing gym, I was just seen. It was a mixture, I think. I was like performing really well, got a lot of positive confirmations, and so I kind of felt this self-worth, and I felt happy about myself and good about myself. So this is where I kind of learned, I think, that I needed to like perform and be good at something, and then be seen by many people and be approached positively by many people. And so I think this is a little bit the coping mechanism I had from like, coping with, difficult feelings and emotions and a lack of self-worth, and from what I experienced at home most of the time.
Amazing. Yeah, that clarity is so, I know we've talked about it, but that it's so important to have that clarity to be able to let go of that habit, by knowing it once helped us and it was once a reality, and it helps us to kind of to thank it, that pattern, that for you to go back to that gym and feel that attention and feel that love again, was really good for you at the time. But then it's sort of lingered and developed, and, it's never good to contrast emotions with computers, but to use that kind of computer analogy, that software is now outdated. We need new software, right? And when we think of it as like that, then we can kind of let go of that habit and start a new one and kind of go, well, actually, my love for climbing isn't actually connected to that need for that attention, where that fuels that restlessness. And and then we can start to enjoy climbing again. I think it's so important because so many climbers, get this restlessness and they carry on for years, and it brings out the stress and anxiety and obsession, and I see so many climbers just like give up climbing, right? We turn the back on the sport for a year or 10 years or whatever it is because we just need space. We need that break, and it's not actually climbing that's the problem. It's actually, us disentangling these things and being able to kind of go, okay, I've been forming a habit, let's create a new one so I can start loving my climbing again. So in carrying on the theme, what do you think is destructive for you now? What patterns or habits do you feel that you still do that aren't helpful, that perhaps are outdated habits?
I think the habit of wanting to be seen or wanting to get recognition, it's in everything. It's not only in climbing, it can be in anything, I gave, in one of the episodes, I gave the example of cooking, that I would have fear of failure for cooking for my friends. It's the same thing. I also want a lot of recognition, oh, it's good food, or oh, thank you for cooking, or and I think I don't need that. I don't need that to be loved or to. I think it still comes back to a bit of a lack of self-love or something. I don't need to wait for recognition. And for example, now, in climbing, it still expresses as the need to perform, and then it becomes a lot of stress, and I want to be successful, and I want to be happy about myself, and this is the only way to realize this is to be successful, that's the pattern I told myself. So I think this is a bit destructive, just being happy about yourself, about who you are. This should be the main goal, and not by this is what I performed, so I identify with my performance, and I identify with my climbing image, and I identify with the recognition I get, and this is where I get my self-worth from. So I think this is the unhealthy pattern that I kept from this. But about identity and how we feel self-worth and how we link our identity to our performances, we will talk about in the next episode, I think. This will be a very good continuation of this episode.
Yeah, identity, self-worth, and our attachment to it shows up for all of us in varying degrees, and I want to get into it now, but we'll wait and we'll get into it another time because it's a bit of another deep dive. So I look forward to chatting that through.
Yeah, great. I'm excited. It's I don't know. I discover so much on this episode about myself as well when we prep it or when talking with you and your insights. Of course, we've been doing some coaching together already, so some things came up, but still recording these episodes for all the people watching, it's almost a little therapy for me as well. But at least if I can, like you said, lead by example a little bit by sharing and showing vulnerable, well, my goal is fulfilled with this episode, so I'm pretty happy with that. I'm looking forward to the next episode already.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Cameron, for this.
My pleasure. Me too. I will see you then.
Yeah. See you and everyone watching next time.
See you guys.
Bye-bye.
Keep climbing.
See ya.